Hello, how are you? I'm Amin Yacoub, and I'd really like to thank you so much for giving me such a chance to present my paper from abroad. I couldn't make it to Montreal due to my prosecutor position here. I'd really like to go straight into my research because I only have 4 minutes left. Um, my research is about the question of who holds the UN responsible for its human rights breaches. And as much as we're all proud of the UN and its achievements, we also like to criticize and scrutinize the acts of the UN because sometimes it goes off track and it breaches human rights uh, severely. So, according to my analysis, I found that there are three main classes of acts that could be attributed to the UN as an international organization. The first class of acts is deploying a peacekeeping mission into a country. Usually, there are two ways to do that. First, if the country is having a peaceful atmosphere, then it's going to be deployed according to Chapter 6. And it needs the consent of the country. So the UN Security Council should not pass a resolution except after obtaining the consent of the country. In the Haitian case, Haiti said that it didn't actually have any kind of armed conflict. However, the UN Security Council passed the resolution number 1542 to deploy the mission MINUSTAH into Haiti. And they used Chapter 7, which is specialized for armed conflicts. The second class of acts is the acts that can actually be attributed to specific soldiers. So, for example, in Haiti, what happened was that some soldiers raped a 14-year-old kid. And it was a scandal, and everyone knew of it. Um, so, here what happens is we know that these two soldiers, they were Pakistani soldiers, that these two Pakistani soldiers raped a child. Therefore, we can hold them responsible. The current UN mechanism is that it can only discharge them from the peacekeeping mission and not actually allow them to join in the next peacekeeping mission. However, they refer the matter into their national jurisdiction in order to investigate and prosecute. So usually what happens is that they go back to their country and it does nothing about it. But these two were actually prosecuted because luckily the UN decided to um, do the prosecution in the country where the mission is deployed. So it did it in Haiti according to the Pakistani law. And criminally, that's totally fine. That's actually what I recommend. However, civilly, we have to think about the responsibility of the UN itself, and this is the most important part for me. Because usually, if you're interested in investment arbitration, you're going to find Article 4 of the uh, ILC articles on state responsibility. It actually says that if the state organ did something that hurt the investor, the state itself is responsible. It's responsible for all its subjects because it has an effective control over all its subjects. So here it's no different. We have the UN, we have soldiers from different nationalities that actually wear the UN outfit, the UN blue helmet, and then they engage in killing people or raping women and men, and then you cannot ask the UN for compensation because of political whatever. It political immunity. It doesn't work like that. So I'm not understanding why cannot we ask the UN for breaching the human rights. But the question here is who holds the UN responsible? Even if we found the way. if we found a way, who holds the UN? What tribunal can hold the UN responsible? That's the main question that I really want to answer. So that's the second class of acts. Third class of acts is um, the acts that are attributable to the UN peacekeeping mission as a whole, that we cannot attribute to specific soldiers, but we can attribute to all the soldiers of the mission. So actually, it was very nice for the ILC to provide for such responsibility of international organizations in the ILC articles on international organizations' responsibility. In Articles 6 and 7, it provided for the responsibility of the international organization for the acts of its subjects. And it defines subjects as those who are under the effective control of the organization. So, purely speaking and logically speaking, if we took the Haitian case and applied Articles 6 and 7 into the Haitian case, we're going to find the UN civilly responsible, and it should provide a compensation for Haitians. However, it didn't happen. I wonder why. Maybe because we lack such a mechanism to hold an international organization as important as the UN responsible for its acts. The third class of acts is that what I talked about, and it's covered by Article 36, I believe, of the ILC Articles on International Organizations Responsibility. Finally, I would like to ask you two more questions, or maybe we can sum up all the questions that I need you to think about and answer to help me further my research. First, who holds the UN responsible, or what is the best mechanism to hold the UN responsible for each class of acts, or the three acts that I mentioned? The three acts were, briefly, the passing a resolution by the UN Security Council to deploy a peacekeeping mission into a country, like misapplying the UN Charter itself. Second, on-ground activities breaching human rights by specific soldiers in the peacekeeping mission. Third is the breaches of human rights that are attributable to the peacekeeping mission as a whole, like the outbreak of cholera in the case of Haiti. After, I would like you to think about some pragmatic solution for that. And this is very serious. I mean, I could be saying very briefly the research that I did, but I think this has a really valuable effect on people's lives. And I would like to thank you so much for listening to me.